So we came and landed in Kandahar. And I can tell you, every one of us had one particular question that came into our mind. How can I, Ron Boucher, have any impact to this country? Everyone asked that question. So why am I here? How can I make a difference? You learn really quickly that you had to adapt and perform tasks beyond your normal comfort zone, which is going to be a critical theme here. So I share this picture with you because I didn't know what to expect when I got there. But at first glance, it was somewhat bizarre and shocking. There were some beautiful days, as we see here. But I can tell you most days were not like that. The first thing you notice is a unique blended aroma, as I mentioned, for the pond, with mud and dirt mixed up into this malodorous smell. And the moon dust is everywhere. This fine moon dust, you inhale it, you breathe it, you cough, you get used to it. But I tell you, that was a very difficult thing to have because the dust was everywhere. This is what days look like. Just treading from the birthing space to the dining facility can be an undertaking. The landscape was uneven, there were scattered potholes, pathways filled with dirt and debris, gravel. Gravel and rocks were placed there presumably to abate the caking mud. When it rains, it pours, it sticks, it floats, you know. And so there were very few roads on base. The roads they had on there was congested with military and tactical vehicles. And then the base was built here for function. There was basically construction going on 24/7, loud noises stirred every flank, generators running every day. You cannot escape the noise. This base was built for function and practicality. Aesthetics was not a concern. Some of the challenges we run into, these are concrete bunkers. They're not there for prettiness. They're there because we were rocket attacked frequently, and I'll talk about that. The other challenges, notice, everybody is carrying weapons. Right? So not everybody should be carrying weapons. I'm sure some of you probably should not be carrying weapons, right? Because that leads to some particular challenges. But yet everybody carried weapons there. Every country did, everybody in the US. So these are Slovakians, and these are Bulgarians. Why do I bring that up? Because remember, this is a NATO base, multinational base. Americans were only a small portion of that, and so everybody did not speak English. The communication was a challenge. We had translators, but one thing you did notice is it gave you a unified front. You realized you were all there for a common purpose, and you all shared that, and spoke unspoken or spoken. The poppy seeds funded the war, and we had some environmental challenges as well. We even brought in entomologists with us. So my colleague Steve Ferrara calls this medicine as seen from the tip of the spear. This is how a battle tent hospital is performed. Basically, you have the gravel, you put up the tent, you basically stock it, and then you put in your bed and you put your wrist system there. Basically, it's the laptop, and then you got your what we call battle aid station. That's what it looks like. This is where we operate most of our stuff on. So if anybody had NASH, now I know there's a lot of younger people here, but most of the older people with gray hairs like me, we see NASH. This is exactly what NASH looks like. Okay? So this is my colleague, Steve Ferrara. He was an interventional radiologist. I'll talk about him in a second. And then this is one of his teams deploying out there to the field. And this is what I call the medical, I call this medical authorization team. They handled everything from total approval to care. So you can imagine kind of people not going to them after a while and complaining about little things. You know, so they handled all that. I was assigned as one of radiologists, and Dr. John York was the other one, to the medical tent hospital. We were considered an Echelon 3 hospital, also called a battlefield or Role 3 hospital. This unit was primarily built to support the care of the coalition casualties, but it had a secondary role for humanitarian support to the local nationals when we had time. And we actually did a lot of that. Now remember, this is NATO owned, and this was a multinational medical unit. It was staffed with a variety of countries when I was there, even though the Americans were in charge, the Canadians were there, British, Dutch, Danish, Australians, and an occasional German while I was there, and that rotated. The Canadians previously commanded the MMU, where control was turned over to the Americans in October 2009 when my team arrived. We took on about 200 medical personnel and support staff. This is what it looks like. Basically, there's a bunch of plywood put over these tent hospitals to give us a little bit of shelter. There were 10 hospitals in the back with 2 ambulances ready and pre-positioned to collect casualties right away from the battle zone. And then here, this is the airfield, which is about 100 meters. And if you turn around, this is inside the hospital. This is where we collect the casualties. We had 4 trauma bays and 8 trauma, actually we had 8 trauma bays and 4 trauma teams. This is what a trauma bay looked like, and that's how we stocked it. This is our ICU. We have about 14 ICU beds. And we called our surgical suite the Kandahar Institute of Surgical Science. What's so funny? That's exactly what it was. So actually, if you look at it, they had metal OR tables, which proved very challenging when we introduced IR. So we think about that. And then you notice how the II, the barely fits in there. The portable units were it's very tight. It's a canister. All we did was sew the canisters together that you saw that the tents were pulled out of, and they became our OR. Okay? Radiology was my unit, and we had 2 of us, 2 radiologists, myself and Dr. York. I had 6 technologists. So a 16-slice, aging 16-slice CT that I spent there for about 10 years. And 2 C-arms, 1 high-end ultrasound, 2 portable ultrasound, which became very useful, and 2 what I call radiology tactical response vehicles. They're actually bikes. That's how we got around. But that was the easiest, fastest, quickest way to get around the base because there was really no way around there. And this is our entry to our scanner. We call it Scanner. I know. So you had to do silly things like that. This is our people. This is the important. These are people working. But I want to share with you that this right here is where we put the radiologist, right in the trauma bay. I can tell you that transformed everything. When I got there, they had no idea what a radiologist was. Think about it. Many other countries don't even have radiologists. They didn't know who you were. You were completely obscure. You had no idea what to do with you. The good thing is we were in charge, so we were able to influence that. So I'll talk about that. One of my colleagues, again, he's the interventional radiologist, Steve Ferraro. He came out to Kandahar in the summer of 2009. He actually preceded my arrival by a couple months. He volunteered as a general medical officer, not as a radiologist. As you saw, that he was in a battle aid station. And he volunteered, but however, during that time, he saw a very unique opportunity to use his specialized skill set. He witnessed rapidly that the many traumas included severe pelvic and spine injuries, some with extensive neurological devastation, that he called me and said, send me some catheters, I think we can do some good here. He introduced point-of-care interventional radiology, and where the application of embolization prevented massive surgeries and prevented lots of loss of blood, saving life and limb.